Для меня сегодняшняя презентация особая, как сказал Вадим Валерьевич, для меня факультет социологии, департамент социологии, он родной, вот, поэтому сегодня особенно, наверное, волнительно и при этом очень хочется поделиться действительно проектом, который мне очень интересен. Презентация будет на английском. Мы познакомились с Кадиром на конференции социологической летом. То есть так интересно, как все взаимосвязано. И действительно было очень неожиданно и приятно встретиться здесь, в Москве. Вот, а я предлагаю, конечно, все дискуссии, все вопросы по-русски. Я честно признаюсь, мне так получилось, что поскольку я уже давно живу не в России, мне сложно про свою работу говорить по-русски, это правда. Вот. Это может быть странно, но это факт. I'll switch to English. I don't know, Kadir, if you understood a bit of Russian, but I was just saying it's very special for me to be here today. It's true, I graduated from Sociology. Okay, let's start. So today I'm going to talk about the online platforms and about the specific type of the online platforms, the ones where you don't have to be physically present. Yeah? So for today, we're leaving platforms like Uber or Airbnb or TaskRabbit aside, and I would ask you to think today about ones who are Upwork, People Per Hour, Freelancer.com. And if you think about it, it's quite a recent phenomenon. Yeah? So, for example, People Per Hour is a British platform which recently celebrated their 12-year anniversary. Yeah? So, it's for the standards, it's a post-2000 phenomenon. And what we're already seeing, that they're very much restructuring labor markets. Yeah? This digitalization is restructuring it, and we are seeing a very big percentage of a social inclusion, that people from different social backgrounds, social classes are joining in, and also from different geographical locations. Yeah? So the platforms are promising us that what you just need your computer, you need your internet, you need your skills, of course, and you can become a part of this global labor. Just a bit of statistics, what is happening there. If we ask freelancers in developed countries like US, in the UK, what is the percentage of freelancers who are working online? Statistics, the recent one tells us that about 25% of them are working partially or full-time on the online platforms. Also, research tells us that platforms are growing at the rate of 20% a year. So thousands and millions of people are joining in constantly. And that creates a lot of positive effects and some negatives, which we're also going to talk about. So what is positive for the client side, for the people who are deciding to go there in order to find a freelancer? Yes, they say that they remove the intermediary. You have the direct access. You don't have to pay the agency fee. And if you imagine that if you're a small entrepreneur, or maybe you are a micro-entrepreneur, maybe you are your own firm, you don't have to overpay. You just go online, you find a suitable freelancer, and they do work for you, which is going to be very often cheaper in comparison to what is done locally. And so what we're actually seeing, that a lot of clients are located in what we call global north, like UK, US, Germany, France, Australia, and a lot of freelancers are coming from global south, and we find a lot of them in Latin America, in Southeast Asia, and they are really outnumbering the number of clients. So what the platforms are promising a freelancer. Yeah? So if you're a freelancer, we're taking a different role, and they say, okay, you have a high level of autonomy, you have flexibility, you have freedom to work whenever you want, how you want, and we're going to match you with the best clients. Yeah? So you're going to have very interesting tasks, you can choose the projects you want to work on, and you're going to live your freelance dream. Yeah? So the freelance dream, if we ask people, what is dream, what does it look like, they usually describe something like a cup of coffee, sitting in a very sleek cafe somewhere, probably in a very warm location, and doing work which they're very, very much enjoying. And if we look at the platforms themselves, it's just the screenshots of different platforms. They say, live your work dream, yeah? So like People Per Hour. Or freelancer.com, hire expert freelancer. Yeah, so they basically tell you that, okay, you're going to work with very talented people who know what they're doing. But if the story was so positive and everything was really the case, there wouldn't be a research project. Yeah? So it would there are a lot of concerns about what is happening, what is actually happening there. So what we actually see in reality, research tells us, and that's what actually made us think about this particular project, which I'm going to talk about, is actually not everything is so positive, the trends, and there are a lot of different factors which are associated with the precarity on the platforms. First of all, there is an unfair pay. Freelancers are reporting that they're paid either low or low to what they would expect, or sometimes they're not even paid at all for what they're doing. Yeah? Maybe clients, after the project is finished, refuse for whatever reason to give them a monetary reward. We're also seeing the intensity of competition. Yeah? So I said it in a positive light, the platforms are growing at the rate of 20% a year, but it also means that more and more people are joining in, and it becomes harder and harder to compete for the project. We're also seeing the reports about the work under pressure, that it has to be done very quickly, and if you have to be constantly online, and if you're not constantly online, you have a very low chance to actually to get the gig, yeah, to get the tasks, to get the work. And again, what we were seeing in the freelance dream is that you can work on interesting projects, you can work on what you want. In reality, we're seeing the trend for digital taylorism. Yeah? So that actually they're doing the repetitive tasks, and this taylorism arm where the same is repeated over and over again, that's what we're seeing in reality. And then the strict and review systems, which are kind of overarching this phenomenon, and they're controlling what freelancers are doing and not really allowing them to deviate and to find the projects they like, because maybe you want to try something new, but maybe you didn't get such a great outcome out of it. Maybe you slipped a bit in terms of your performance, your percentage goes down, and it becomes very difficult to find work again, and even if your ranking drops a tiny bit. So here we're adding another layer, because if we're looking at the literature, a lot of these concerns, which I talked about, they tend to be about micro workers, yeah? People who are doing not very creative tasks, or not creative at all, like data entry, or maybe it's about taking the images. So there's a lot of research about micro workers, and there is an idea that people who are creative, they're protected. Yeah, because they're in control of what they're doing, and because they have high level of skills, and they're the ones who can choose what they are actually working on. They can decline clients they don't want to work with, and they can really separate in this online space. And that's the question which we're asking. Are they really protected, these creative people? Is it true that we have such a big difference between micro workers and creators? We're not comparing them directly in our research, but we're looking specifically at those who are creative. And the research question which we asked is how the OLM is, online labor market, how it's structured, and in terms of production and reproduction inequality. That's what was interesting for us. And also, what are the main sources of advantage on those platforms, on digital freelancing platforms, specifically for people who are creative professionals. Here, I need to have a little note, yeah, so it's not necessarily but it's a note, because we assume that this particular advantage is going to be location specific. That depending where you are in the world, that you can be in the global south, let's say somebody sitting in Bangladesh, or you can be in the global north, someone sitting in the United States, that your idea about your position in this market and what is advantages for you is going to be different. And that led us to qualitative methodology. Yeah? So we really wanted to tap in and to understand what is happening in this space using qualitative methods. So we conducted 40 in-depth interviews. So what happened? We had 26 with freelancing designers, and they were coming from 17 different countries. So for us, the variety was important. We wanted to have people, we didn't have repetitions, yes, so we had some repetitions, but we were trying to reach as much variety as possible. And for us, this representation of the global south and the global north was the key. We then asked them to recommend us some clients. Yeah, it's very difficult to conduct the interviews with clients, so the only way how we're able to access them was to ask our freelancers to do it, and we are aware that those clients who we talked with are quite good clients. And so because the ones who are not so good, they probably would not agree to talk to us. We also approached 3 platform providers. 2 were global platforms, 1 was a local platform. And we also had 2 industry experts. But who are the experts? Yeah, like everybody's an expert nowadays if they want to be. But one person was actually positioning himself on the platform as the one who is recommending freelancers to promote themselves on the platform and to earn higher rate. Yeah, so he was actually mentioned by a lot of freelancers in their interviews as the one they either read his blogs or they actually take courses with him, which he's charging a lot of money, and himself he's charging, I think, like $200 an hour on the platforms. And the second person is an expert. She is still working for a freelancer union in the UK, and this organization is helping self-employed people to promote themselves, to have a sustainable career, and online freelancing is a part of it. And that we thought gave us a more consistent, more coherent picture of what is happening in this space, what is happening in this field, in order not to hear just one side of the story, but to hear different sides and different voices, which would sometimes contradict themselves, and that shows us a better reality, we thought. Okay, in terms of the theoretical lens, here I'm honest, and I think we're honest in our paper as well, that the idea of Bourdieu, the theoretical lens of Bourdieu, came later in. So we actually were looking at our data and trying to find the ways to explain what we're actually seeing within the data. And there were different ideas first, like we were thinking about the Bauman theory of globalization, of polarization, but that didn't really match with what we were finding. And then we thought there was a suggestion to look at it through the lens of Bourdieu and the capitals, so economic, social, cultural capital, and how it shapes this space. And it's actually, we think, that explains well what we found in terms of the groups of freelancers I'm going to talk about and the differences between those groups. So finally, the findings. It's always the most interesting part to actually find out what is happening in this space, what we found. First, we realized that all freelancers, regardless of their geographical location, regardless of their background, they were talking about the initial dark period, the space where they were initially, it was very difficult to find a gig. Yeah, so the first gig was a challenge, and the idea is that when you're entering this online space, you're leaving your social capital behind. Yeah, so you might have a team of people you were working with, maybe you had different clients in your offline space, that was fine. But in online space, you have to start from scratch, and everybody starts with 0 hours and 0 reviews, and your ranking is really low. So how to get this first gig? That was a challenge, and there were different ways of how they were trying to overcome it, but the most common one was that you have to charge really, really low. And so you have to find a project, maybe you earn just $20, you spend a lot of hours of your time, but you do get this first ranking, and then after that you get new projects. And we also heard it from the client side, because the clients were saying, yeah, sometimes I'm ready to give a chance to a freelancer with 0 reviews, but I expect to pay very, very little, and I expect to have an excellent job. Because we know, everywhere, the beginning is hard, so tough luck, but that's the expectation, that's the reason sometimes why, as a client, I'm on the platform. We also found that there are 3 main rules of the game. Yeah? So how to actually operate in this space and how to be more or less relatively successful in this space. So the first one I already started talking about a bit, so it's about charging lower rates, hourly rates, in comparison to offline, especially at the beginning. Yeah, so in order to start, in order to launch your online career, you have to charge really low. The second rule was about the speed. Yeah, so it's something which we heard again from both freelancers and clients. They were saying that you have to be on the platform, you have to be available when clients want you to be available, you have to respond quicker to what you usually used to in the offline space. And also, that was confirmed by clients, because they were saying, the reason I'm on the platform is because I want convenience and I want speed. Yeah? If I have time to find someone locally, it may take me a week, 2 weeks. No, I'm going on a platform, I need someone within 2 days. Also, just a reminder, a lot of these clients are entrepreneurs, small entrepreneurs, micro-entrepreneurs. For them, this speed sometimes is everything. They are working also on their own projects, but they're not necessarily huge projects. So they have to make sure that the turnaround time is quick for them. And the third and the most important rule is the effective communication. And here it's almost a separate topic, probably in the future, but a lot is happening within this rule is the ability to speak the language of the client. And it means different things. It's about knowing how to approach them by email, rather than telling them, I have 15 years of experience, I've done similar projects before. You have to be to the point and explaining them what exactly you can do for them, for their project, and how you can resolve their problem. You also have to be very responsive. And the proficiency of English was, again, something which clients reported, because they said that all the communication is going online. We don't have a chance to meet in person. We don't have a chance to clarify some things. So it's really important for me how the actually email is written. If there's spelling, grammar mistakes, I'm just deleting it and I'm going to a different freelancer. Yeah? So it's nothing to do with their technical skills, if you think about it. It's not about how they draw and how they do a 3D design, but it was one of the most important things which was reported. And then, after we looked at these preliminary findings, we also looked more specifically into the groups of freelancers, which we defined 3 groups. And here is just a little reminder about what Bourdieu is telling about the capital, so I'm sure everybody here knows that basically the more capital produces more capital. Yeah? So if you're coming to the field with some capital, it's going to help you. And why it's important for us now, because we talk about these 3 groups, and the platforms are promising us democratization of this space and flattening of this space. Yeah? So what they're saying that anybody can join the platform and they can do really well. They can earn unlimited amount of money on the platform. Doesn't matter where you are, and you can be in the village in Bangladesh, or you can be sitting in the beach in Miami. You can earn the same amount of money. We will see that that's not the case, and that's where Bourdieu and his theory is helping us. So, the first group, low-end designers, and you will see they're going to be separated by the amount of money they're earning per hour on the platform. So the first group, they charge very little. They charge from $5 to $15 an hour, and most of them are located in the global south, so Southeast Asia or Latin America. And they're aware that they're competing on price. Yeah? So they know that one of the main reasons why freelancers are choosing, or why clients are choosing them, is because they're charging really low. And how they position themselves is generic executionists. Usually it's someone who can do everything in the area of design. They can say, we can do a poster, we can do a business card, sometimes they can even do a website, the same person, which is a bit worrying. But the idea is that they have a low level of economic capital, and they have a quite low level of cultural capital usually as well. What it means? For example, most of them didn't have a university degree in design or related science fields. They were having like 6 months in a training center, in a local center, and then they were explained how to be a freelancer. Also, I put some quotes here which are the most interesting, and look at this lady. I can tell you it's a designer from India. She says that she earns $300, $400 a month. She also says that she works a lot, but it's a good salary, and it doubles her earnings in a local employment which she had before her training. We could say, oh, $10 an hour, $300, she's working just 30 hours. But that's not the case. Yeah? So again, behind this is very often they do a project for $20, and in reality, they're working maybe 10 or 12 hours a day in order to have this salary. Yeah? So not a very high economic capital in global terms, but higher than her peers or than her previous employment which she had. So for her position is really good, yeah, because she improved her location in this scale, in this hierarchy, but they can't really see what is happening, yeah, because this space is becoming overcrowded. More and more freelancers from different locations are joining in. Especially we're seeing the increase of people from African countries, which can charge even lower, maybe $2 or $3. And what can happen to these people? That they're actually going to be pushed out from the market. They will be pushed out from the platform because competing on price is their main differentiated advantage. Once people who charge lower come in, it will be much more difficult for them to compete, but a lot of them were not aware of it themselves. Okay, the second group, here probably the most interesting things were happening, because in this group, who charged from $15 to $30, we saw it as the least homogeneous group. Yeah, so there were basically two subgroups there, and we called them precarious and ambitious, and there were differences in their motivations and also in their composition of the capital as well. And so a bit more details about each of them. Ambitious, they were looking up. Yeah, they were looking towards those freelancers who are charging more on the platform. They might be charging 20 now, but they were saying, in the next 5 years, I think I'm going to increase my rate to $50. I'm confident that I can do it. I think I have the skills, I have the capacity. I don't see the reasons why I'm going to be stopped. Most of them were located in the global south, like Latin America, again, Southeast Asia we heard, and they had very good education, university degrees, and excellent skills which they were confident about. So $20 an hour, it means they already were living better life than a lot of their peers locally, if we take the average salary in their countries, but at the same time they saw a positive future in front of them. Some of them wanted to open their business and had entrepreneurial dispositions as well. Precarious, who were charging the same amount of money, $15 to $30, but they were feeling very differently, they were feeling very anxious. A lot of them were located in global north. We had people from Spain, from Portugal, from UK, and they were looking at the other segment, at those who were charging $5 to $15, and they were very much afraid of those guys. They were saying that those people, and they were literally like looking down at them, that's why I'm pointing at the floor. So basically they were saying that they're spoiling the market. They are preventing them to have a better living. They're spoiling the idea of freelance. The idea that they are not paid and can't have a really good life. It's because of those guys. They charge $10 in India or $5 in India. And a lot of them, they had a moderate level of economic capital. What it means that there was something in their life situation which probably encouraged them to be in the platform, not necessarily fully voluntarily. Yeah, so they may be made redundant, maybe they had to keep the work-life balance and take care of the kids, maybe they were not happy with the pay they were getting in their offline employment. Someone was actually relocating from one country to another and was trying to find a space in the online in order to earn the income. So there was something happening there that they didn't feel very comfortable in their economic situation. And the cultural capital, they had an education, they had a degree, but they didn't feel confident they can charge high prices and have really high level of technical skills. They were actually talking about it. Yeah, so what we're seeing here, we're seeing this polarization. Yeah, so this, and in this middle group, it's probably the most visible. That some of them are kind of going to move up over time, if we have to think what is happening in 5 years. And some of them will either have to lower their prices, but sometimes it's not possible, and maybe these ones are going to be pushed out of the platform employment and have to find alternative ways to make money as a freelancer or as a full-time employed. I'm doing for time. Fine. Okay. And then the final group is the high-end design market, and those we call stars, the superstars. We had people in a sample who were charging $75 an hour. One person was even charging $95 an hour, and they were very comfortable with their position. And what is interesting, their location didn't really matter. We had people from the global south, we had people from the global north, but what was very much evident that they were coming to the platform with a high level of economic and cultural capital. Yeah, so there already were people who could travel easily from one location to another, who had great education, who were very comfortable and confident in their skills. They were not positioning themselves as a freelancer. They were saying that we are consultant. And if you remember that I was talking about the 3 rules of the game, and the third one was about communication, which I made a note and I said this is the most important. So these guys, they mastered this third rule of the game. Yeah? So they were really good at communicating with clients in a professional setting, and they were very much aware of the business ethics in the global north, because a lot of the clients are coming from the global north, and they expect a certain type of communication, which these guys, regardless of where they were from, like this guy is from Argentina but living in France, they were very much aware and mastering it really well. Yeah, so they were consciously investing in their online career and saw it as a career. Conclusions. Yeah. So what did we actually find? What is the summary of all of it? So we found that different levels of economic, social, cultural capital, economic and cultural capital, they matter. Social capital, we didn't really see the differences because you're leaving it, very much leaving it behind by the time you're entering the platform. But it's not only the capital which you bring with you, but it's also how the platform values it. And because most of the clients are from the global north, they value certain types of the capital more than the others. So just to say that you have a high education, high university degree, it didn't really mean that you will do great on the platform. If your degree from the institution where you learned the business practices of the global north, you're in a more advantageous position, but if you didn't, then you're still disadvantaged. We had an example of a freelancer. She's from Venezuela, and she has a university degree, but she's charging $6 an hour. And she said, like, she did a project for $70, and she couldn't believe how much she was paid, or how much she was earning, because in her local job in Venezuela, she earns $60 a month, and she earned this $70 for a 2-day job on the platform. Yeah? So for her it was unreal, and a lot of her peers were saying you're undercharging, you can't charge $6, you have a university degree. But it was incomprehensible for her. So what the platforms are telling us, that the actors are free and they can charge as much as they want and earn as much as they want. That's very much a fairy tale. That's not the truth. And one of the outcomes of our research, we really hope to make freelancers as well aware of their position, because we believe that once you know your location, and I don't mean geographical location, I mean the composition of different capitals you have in combination with the actual geographical location, then you can assess what is your position, what is your trajectory, what realistically can happen to you in this space, and then you can decide whether it's a good space for you to invest, or maybe it's true, maybe you have to find different alternatives. And I wanted to finish today's presentation with a quote from Lewis Carroll Alice in Wonderland, and when Cheshire Cat addresses Alice, and she said, like the cat says, "My dear, here we must run as fast as we can just to stay in one place. And if you wish to go anywhere, you must run twice faster." And so this very much for us summarizes what is happening in these platforms. We're seeing intensification of work. We're seeing that there is definitely this polarization of different groups. And if you want to be a part of this game, and if you do want to have good earnings, feel comfortable, you have to run really, really fast, yeah, and to work very hard. Okay, this is it from me. Thank you very much.